Hi Chanel, how are you?
Hi, Lené. I am awesome and once again very excited for what's going to happen today.
Yes, today we are speaking about the 6 to 9-year-old group and how we can teach children sexuality. And I'm just going to dive right in and just speak about this era in their life or time in their life. Children really start to begin to form norms and values, even though obviously they are from a young age exposed to it, they start to understand it more and are able to adhere to norms and values. Now, the thing is that for them to understand and make decisions according to the norms and values that we have in our house, we really need to make this explicit, if I can say it like that. We need to teach them what is right, what is wrong, what is safe, what is unsafe, what is good, what is bad. And in this age group, because they start to understand norms and values, they also start questioning other people who do not necessarily fall in the norms and values that we are used to. So they might ask, why does this friend not have a dad? Or why are there two men holding hands if they are used to mom and dad holding hands? So this is such an important time for us establish the norms and values that we have in our homes. So maybe, Chanel, you could just share with us what are practical ways that we can do this so that the children of this age group can really understand the values and norms.
Awesome. It is, like you said, one of the most important building block, foundation blocks that we need to have in our children's lives, especially because they're starting to go to school now. And just to make it fun, to make it practical, use whatever you have in your home. If you have Lego blocks, if you have bricks outside, if you just want to write on papers and laminate it maybe to put it up. But it's very important that the values that you choose as a family will be understandable and that it will be visible within your home. So let's say you say one of your values is respect. Then you can maybe write on a brick the word respect and maybe draw pictures or print out and put it on there. Pictures of respect. Examples would maybe be to say please and thank you, to not shout at each other, to share toys. So make sure that your children, even though they are still very young, they understand in a concrete manner what the values are, because it can be very abstract if you just say love. Because even though love in your house is a very important value to have, you must break it down for the little ones, especially at this age. They're starting to read and to write, so they can be part of this. They can have fun with you. And it can be a nice feature in your home. It might look a little childlike if they are involved, but believe me, it is worth the trouble and worth the effort if they buy into this. And then when they are confronted with, like you've mentioned, norms and values of different families, have a discussion about it and say, okay, how do you think that value is in contrast or the opposite of one of our values? And why do you think this value is important? And if they don't yet know, debrief it with them and make it a fun family discussion on one of your family fun evenings, so that this can really be embedded in their hearts. And then when they are confronted with choices that differ from their values, they will know what to fall back on and what their default is. I always refer to your default printer. If you say to your computer, print, it doesn't ask questions, it just prints to whatever you set as the default printer. And we must set that default printer in our children's head according to Christian-based norms and values that we have discussed and decided upon in our family.
I the other day or a little while back, I actually wanted to just write down my own values. What is important for me? And I think I kind of got stuck because I was like, what values do I believe in? And something practical I just did is to actually just Google values. And the whole list of things popped up. And then I could start sorting just through things that really resonate with us and that we believe in, but we do not always know how to voice it. So this is maybe something parents can do, is just to Google it and, just start making a list and say, our top 10 values, or even just start with 5 values. These are the main things that we believe in our home. And even for parents, I think the values, if your values and norms are really set in place, it is also a very good foundation to lay down rules in your house and have boundaries, because then there is a reason behind what you are saying. Yeah, Chanel, I think last time in our previous video, we spoke about decision making and how we can start teaching our children the foundations for making good decisions. And in this phase, norms and values will also add to this foundation of decision making. And I think also we always like to chat about something practical, is that our children again need to understand the interrelationship between our spirit, our soul, and our bodies, and that what we do and what we say has an impact on our heart. And a practical example that we will just put up here in the corner is that you can take a picture and just show children that what you allow into your eyes is going to have an effect on your heart, and what you allow into your ears, and even what you do or what other people can do to your body, or of course you yourself can do to your body, has an effect on our heart. And if we can establish this in children's hearts, that in the long run, we need to take care of our hearts. We want our hearts to be healthy. Then they can understand that the things that they do will have a long-term effect. And still, children start to understand cause and effect. And this is a very good time to really start emphasizing this way of decision making, understanding that we do not just do things in isolation. This decision making process, of course, have a great influence on a child's self esteem as well. And we've said this over and over again that a self esteem is such an important part of sexuality, because when you have a healthy self concept and body image and self esteem, then your decisions in terms of what you seek out in terms of your sexuality is going to make such a difference, and your choices will be more healthy. And I'm just thinking, already at the age of 9, and these days, earlier and earlier, boys and girls start to secrete more hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. And this is already the start of puberty. And we know that puberty brings, all these changes in your body, and therefore can have an effect on the self-esteem. But when, at least from the age of 6, when you really start boosting a child's self-esteem, where you are really more focused on, the character than just what is outside, and that they can understand norms and values, then it will feed a positive self-esteem. And when puberty hits, then of course their decisions and their self-esteem, decisions are more healthy, and self-esteem is less affected in a bad way. Now, in terms of self-esteem, I think we as parents can really have a positive effect and an input in terms of celebrating our femininity and masculinity. I know it sounds maybe strange now at such a young age, but I think as a start, there's maybe some practical things that we can do with our kids. So maybe Chanel, you can just share with us, what do you think can we as parents do for girls to really celebrate them being girls?
We have already built the foundation over the last couple of years, how appreciative we are of their gender and how God designed them to be specifically a boy, specifically a girl. And when they turn 6 and start going to school, this is the perfect time to start celebrating that in a more practical way. So for the girls, a practical tip that I would like to give every mom is, and even the dads, if they feel up for it, is to first of all compile a little bag with practical items in preparation for menstruation. When, like we've said, it might start a little bit earlier, but we will definitely, we rather want it to be too early than let your daughter be caught off guard. So have a little beautiful bag with a nice flower on or something pretty that she can put in her bag, and include in that package. Include a pad and a clean set of underwear and some toilet paper, so that she can be prepared for when that big event happens. And talk to your daughter about menstruation in the ways that we have already highlighted, how special it is and how God cleans our bodies once a month. And once we start puberty, once we start becoming truly a woman, the way that God designed us, this is something beautiful that happens. And it's also important to now start preparing her for reality as well. There might be a little bit of back pain. We can give her a hot water bottle if she's got stomach cramps. So help her to be prepared and to work through this. Otherwise, like we've said, if you do not support your child, she will go to someone next to her to help her. And the information that she gets there might not be accurate, it might not be uplifting, and it might be built on someone else's experience, a friend's, a teacher's. And we really want to spare our children the embarrassment of that. So that's the one practical component. Then the other one that is really worth celebrating is God designed us, and God designed your daughter as a woman. And you can start celebrating it with her, like by tapping a nice bath with bubbles and put up candles, and then you two can enjoy that together. Because now, like we've said, at this age, different genders definitely stop bathing together, and we respect the privacy and the different developmental phases that they are going in. So, and you don't have to make a big deal about it. You can one day just say, oh, don't worry, your brother's going to bath a little later, or he's going to start showering with dad. It doesn't have to be a big awkward moment of why are things changing. It can just be in the glide and in the stride of the day. And a practical thing that you can do for your daughter is to build her own bath bag. And in that, you can put her own little scented candle and maybe some nice bath oils. And you can help her to start this journey of self-care and celebrating that God designed me differently. And that it is okay, and I can embrace that, and I can enjoy it. It doesn't have to be a burden, or just because we're different doesn't mean that it's wrong. So she can enjoy this beautiful celebration of womanhood even at this young age. And later, she will then have that, like you've mentioned, Lené, the correct self-image and self-concept, because she learned to appreciate her body, not based or founded upon what she looks like, but upon appreciating and really seeing herself the way that God designed her and celebrating that.
Yeah, Chanel, I think when we speak about these things, the thought might come up that this is quite a bit early to address this with your daughter. But like we said previously, these topics have been addressed with your daughter at different levels according to their age from a young age. So this shouldn't come as a shock to your daughter. And also something that I just want to emphasize again today, that if your daughter is of a more quiet personality and has not asked these questions, you as a parent need to bring this up. Even questions and the topics that we've discussed at the earlier age. So we take the responsibility in our hands to teach them from a young age, and to not be embarrassed about these concepts. Now, these are very beautiful examples you've given us for girls. Is this something that you would suggest that we do with boys, even for them to be celebrated that they are boys, that they are men?
Definitely, and it's quite the opposite. Boys have a heart for adventure and for wild and for experimenting and for enjoying life and pushing everything to its full limits. So my suggestion would be that dad would start doing adventurous stuff, and to his own extent and to his own temperament and personality with the boys. So if it is going camping outside in the garden and practicing how you can even give him his own barbecue so that he can do that now. Just make sure that you have enough of everything so that whatever falls on the ground, it won't be fatal. But let them experiment and have this adventure together. As another example could be if dad maybe likes to go fishing, or to just check out the car. Is the oil still fine? To just start doing manly, adventurous boy stuff, guy stuff together. And it can even be something that they say, oh, this is definitely the boys' day, and this is the girls' day, and then we can make fun of it, and we can celebrate in a humorous way together that God designed us differently. And this just brings it back to me that God really designed for a mother and a father to really have this influence together on the children. And if you have only boys or only girls, then I'm sure that dad can also say, okay, well, show me what you girls are doing, and let them maybe put some face cream on you, and celebrate that together. We don't have to feel like we're missing out if we only have one or the other. I'm sure that you have enough creativity and the Holy Spirit within you to enjoy the children that God gave you specifically.
Just to add here, Chanel, I don't think we've really spoken about this before, but to establish a good relationship with your children, whether it is mom and daughter or mom and boy and vice versa with dad, is to sometimes just take them out on a date, and just make them feel special. And this, is not necessarily something that you have to do. Um, have the talk with them or teach them about sexuality. It is just for them to feel special. Thank you for the example, Chanel. I think it's such a good idea. Now, if we move on to teaching kids about sex and the act of sex, they are becoming more curious and aware in this state. And the abstract thinking, even though it starts to form, they are still thinking in a very concrete way. So how can we as parents start teaching them about the more intricate ways, intricate things of sex, because they're not quite at the age where they understand all the mechanics, but they need to be prepared for it. So what do we do in this age group?
A very practical way to approach your 6 to 9 year old is to call in the help of a book. But once again, like we've said earlier, the book is always just a support. So you as the parent must be the main contact point with regard to all sexual information. And this is just another point of information that you are using in the discussions, in the long, soft, constant rain that we've spoken about, the open communication that you have toward your child. So once again, not that thunderstorm that rains down on them one day with the talk or the speech. You constantly keep the communication lines open. And it would be highly beneficial at this age, because they're starting to read and to write, to use a book, and to work with it, uh, to work through it with your child. So sit down and work through the pictures, work through the commentary, and discuss what is going on. My suggestion would be that you would read the book first and make a few notes, get over yourself, breathe, talk to your husband about it, your marriage partner about it, if you feel uncomfortable discussing certain things. Also, a good rule of thumb, not necessarily have to be that way. It's just a little bit easier and more comfortable if dad approaches the boys first, and then mom comes in and she also shares information, and mom approaches the girls first, and then dad also comes and shares more information, so that the child knows that both of my parents are knowledgeable, approachable, comfortable, and this is a topic that we as a family are comfortable with. So you can work through the book. I just want to put a word of caution out there to, while you're working with your 6 to 9 year old child and you're busy discussing this, to be aware that your younger children are not yet at the age where they should be exposed to this. So that's why what you just mentioned earlier, Lené, about having a special date with your children individually, each and every single one of them, to have that date with them and say, this is our special place where we discuss it. So if the question comes up, let's say you're driving from school and the older one asks a question, and you know that it's not appropriate for your younger child, you can bank that question and say, I am going to answer it in our special date time. So now it's already established. They know that this date is real, it's happening, it's weekly, it's regular, it's comfortable, and they can also bring their questions to you in that time. But to just be very careful, because now it's normally with the first one, and I guess it works like that with the first child. You are very careful with everything, and then the next one come, and the next one come, and then you're like, oh goodness, how do you juggle all of this? But it's very important, specifically with the information and what, like we've mentioned in the earlier videos, with the images that you share with your children, that you share it age appropriately. and work through the book before the time so that you do not get caught off guard with an awkward picture or with images that you are not comfortable with sharing yet with your child. We are not focusing on mechanics or the act of sex yet with the children at this age. It only comes a lot later. We are focusing on the biology. We're focusing on let's look now. What does the biology of the boys look like and of the girls look like? And they don't yet need to know that the two parts go together. That also only comes later. But they need to know the biological names. They need to know that, like we've mentioned, good touch, bad touch, and they need to understand that we are different. Otherwise, curiosity will kill the cat, and your children will start experimenting themselves. And many parents ask, but Chanell, if I expose my child, now we're working through this booklet, won't I open the door for them now to just go all out? The answer is no, because if they get healthy, good, accurate, comfortable information from their parents, then the need will be satisfied. Then they will know what is truth. And then when kids at school or an older child maybe approaches them with information that is not accurate, that is not good, that is not uplifting, they will be able to distinguish the good from the bad, the right from the wrong, because you have laid that foundation.
Yes. Just something that I want to add in this special daytime that you have with your child. If it happens on a regular basis, let's say you cannot make it once a week, but you do it at a pace how you can, is to take your child, especially when you open the topics of sexuality, just to a private place where they feel safe. So a wimpy ice cream with the play, ground might have worked at a younger age, but now when you start discussing maybe menstruation or the body parts, and you have your little booklet with you, in the middle of Wimpy or Spur is maybe not the best place. And maybe you can go to a park that day, let them have a bit of play. And then when they settle down, then you can say, I want to share something with you about, our beautiful bodies and how God has made us. And so when you establish a place where they feel comfortable, then also, like you said, with the curiosity, they will know that there will be a time and a place where we can chat to mom. And if we feel unsure, mom or dad, and if we feel unsure about something, there is a regular time where I can maybe bring up the question if I'm not brave enough to ask it in the middle of a car ride home. So Chanel, this is a time that definitely curiosity starts to grow, especially because we say that puberty can even start to set in at this age and the body starts to change. And of course, they have contact with a much greater part of the world, if I could say it like that. Even if you were, even if your children didn't go to kindergarten, but they go to school, now they will get in contact with a lot of other norms and values. So let's say your kid comes home to you, and a friend brought a condom to school. What do you do if your child asks you what this is? Most probably they will know by then that it's a condom because somebody, would have blown open the question. But how do we explain this to our 6 to 9 year old?
That is definitely a question that can catch a parent off guard. But let's take it back to what you have in your home or what you can purchase that you can use that is really simple. And a practical example that I would like to give you is to go and purchase seedlings. And you can approach it with the three that we have discussed, how you can answer a question. So with the physical, family, and future. So first of all, you say, like these seeds, you'll see at the back it says that it should be planted in the summer. And it might be winter at the time, or it might be still a little bit cold. So you say there's a specific time for these seeds to be planted. So we have to wait a little bit. And because you've already opened the discussion of a seed from daddy and the egg from mommy comes together to form a baby, you can now say that like these seeds have to wait, sometimes mom and dad have to wait before we have another baby. So we use a condom to stop those seeds from entering mommy's body and forming another beautiful baby just like you, deep inside of mommy's body. So these seeds we have to keep for that specific season. And therefore we keep it in this pouch, and we keep it away. And that's exactly what a condom does, is it keeps those seeds from forming a new life. So you will use a condom, or a mom and a dad will use a condom until the perfect time comes when God tells them, okay, you are now ready to add another beautiful bundle of joy to your family. And that is the perfect design that God had. So even though the certain situation that your child might have been exposed to, the condom, we still need to enforce our family values, and help them to establish and to distinguish between right and wrong in that. So you still explain it from your perspective, from your values, so that they can form in their head that foundation of good and bad, right and wrong, and of the perfect design that God had. So there you go. You have answered the very awkward question of what does a condom do? Remember, when your child asks the question, they are not seeing the mechanics. They want to know how this puzzle piece fits into the information that you have given them. You can, in the discussion, say that it goes over the penis of the daddy, so to protect and to keep the seeds there, because that's the truth. Once again, always give your children the truth. Don't try and shy away from the question when they, even maybe they find a condom, and they bring it to you, to shy away from it and say, oh no, it's a balloon, let's see, we can twist it in an elephant, to just make the moment a little bit less awkward on you, because maybe your child already know what it's for, and they want to taste if you are willing to be truthful with them. And we do not want to fail that test. We want to keep the communication lines open, with regard to sexuality and all things sex towards our children, in this age.
Yes, again, we are emphasizing that we need to get over ourselves and talk about these things, even if that's not the way that we grew up. So maybe the next question, and I know for me it was a shocker when I grew up, is to understand that mom has pubic hair. And the bigger shocker for me was to understand that dad also has. I remember I laughed so much I couldn't, contain myself, and my mom kind of didn't know how to handle it. So let's say your young child comes to you and ask, why do we are the same, we are girls, but we look different, and you have pubic hair. How do we explain that to them?
I think once again, like you said, get over yourself and realize that God designed your body in a specific way. And like we said, with the triplica approach, with the physical family future, we say, okay, well, God designed your body to grow. And like you were a little baby, remember you've seen in your baby books now, you were a little baby and you were so, so cute and adorable. But then you grew older, and then you started walking, and like you grew, as like your body grew and started doing different things. So as you still continue growing, there are beautiful chemicals that God designed within your body. We call them hormones, and they start developing. And in the phase of puberty, remember, we are now building our children's vocabulary, their sexual vocabulary. They start at puberty, and that's when hair starts growing, because that's one of the side effects, or one of the effects of these beautiful chemicals inside your body is that hair starts growing. And it starts growing on boys and on girls, um, around your genital areas. And it's normal, it's okay. And the only thing is, and we can also then take a little bit to self-care, is to always nicely wash and to clean yourself. And I think it's important to discuss with your children that it might even smell funny if you don't properly care for yourself. You do not want your child to be that laughing stock at school, that smells a little, or that is a little bit awkward. So help them to know it's important to change your underwear. It's important to shower every day and to wash everywhere, especially in your genital areas where the dark spots that you can't see. It's important to help your child to make this normal. It's a normal developmental phase. So if she laughs and points and stares at mom's pubic hair, then you say, I am a big girl now. And one day when you grow up, you will also have hair. And it's normal and it's okay.
Yes. And of course, for the boys, the facial hair also. You can
Yes.
just throw that also that they can understand. Oh, there's hairs like that is beard, that grows in part of the bodies when you are older. I'm just thinking of one topic, Chanel, and I think this is maybe a difficult one for parents, and it will really depend on the situation. But pornography is also something that we need to keep in the back of our minds. And obviously, our children will not necessarily come at this age and say, oh, there's pornography. Like you say, they don't have the vocabulary for that. But something that we need to lay the foundation for is that if children bring explicit pictures of ladies that are not fully dressed. You don't necessarily have to say that are naked because that might not be the occasion. That are not fully dressed, or even a man that is not fully dressed, that we do not look at that. And that if you find a friend with something like that, to come and talk to mommy. And I think something we can already speak about this is that if advertisements come onto the TV, or you are paging through a magazine, you're making a collage for something totally different, and there are men and women in their underwear, to say that even though they are posing in their underwear, this is not something that we do in our home, and then just establish the privacy again. So I don't know if you have any other ideas, Chanel, just how we breach this topic of pornography, though not yet exposing our children to it.
We have spoken about the body, soul, spirit, and how all three of them are connected. And it's important to teach your child that if something makes them feel uncomfortable, whether it's something they hear, something they feel, their heart, their thoughts, it makes them feel uncomfortable, because that's, I bet, the most that you will be able to help them to identify it. We can't yet start speaking about conscience and the impact of that. I think that's a little bit too early, but use the word uncomfortable, because they can associate with that, to immediately remember the image that we showed, what goes into your eyes, what goes into your ears, that enters your heart, and it has an impact on your thoughts, on your sleep. So even if your child starts sleeping, or having waking up at night, terrified of the images that maybe they've seen or what they've heard, to help them to deal with that, and to then surrender that to Jesus. I think a big question, Lené, is, let's now say your child was accidentally exposed to pornography. They saw it from an older friend, or it popped up somewhere. It's life happens, and it's everywhere accessible. Some of the ads have it in. Even when you're Googling, there are explicit images coming up, and your child now have been exposed to it. You as a parent need to just keep a close monitor on that child and help them to deal with that exposure. And because we have an intimate relationship with Jesus, we can walk that road with our child and surrender our thoughts and surrender our hearts to Jesus once again, and on a daily basis, and say, I surrender my thoughts when I start thinking about those things that I've seen. Some children are just a lot more sensitive, like you've mentioned. You're more quiet, in the corner child. They would be exposed to an image that maybe you work with them through the little booklet that you're working with, and it would disturb them. It would make them feel uncomfortable. Then you say, it's okay. Let's speak about this. Let's pray, and let's ask Jesus to give us peace in our heart, and help them to develop an understanding that their minds can be influenced, but it can also be influenced by the Holy Spirit. So yes, so protect your child from that, but also know that if they've been exposed, it's not the end. The grace of God is incredible and for everything, even for that.
Yes. I think it's so important what you're saying, Chanel, is that we do the best to prepare our children for life, but sometimes things happen the other way around. And life first happened before they have the right tools to handle it. And this, especially this age, when the communication is so much better, the abstract thinking starts to develop a little bit more, they understand more of the Holy Spirit, we can, as parents, minister grace to them and teach them to receive grace for themselves. Because even though we might want to do things right also, and this in terms of self-concept is a big thing for children at this age, they can distinguish between the real self and the ideal self. So even though we want to do the right thing all the time, we are not always able to do it because we do make mistakes. We are human. And for them to have the grace for themselves to make their mistake, but then have a safe place in the home, and then obviously with Jesus to receive the forgiveness or receive the peace or whatever is necessary. So Chanell, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and thank you for all your insights. And next week we're going to speak about the next age group where things get a bit more mechanical, and I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Thank you, Lené. Goodbye.